not gonna lie to you, I am very tired today. Two of our wonderful friends got married yesterday and I was helping them with the food, so this whole week my brain has just been like trying to figure out how to make canapes for a whole wedding of people, and my brain is a little soupy today. So I want to do a very chill, head empty craft that's just gonna bring joy and add a little bit of whimsy to my backyard. So today I'm going to be painting bricks to look like books. What's the worst that could happen? If you're new here, welcome to my backyard, or at least a corner of it. Clearly, we have not taken care of this corner. But my plan for today is to take these $1 bricks I got at Home Depot, paint them up to look like little books, and then line them up along the fence like a little bookshelf. In my mind, it's like people put garden gnomes in their backyards and in their gardens, so why can't I make book bricks and do the same thing? Step one of all of these books, every single book requires pages. So the first thing I want to do on all these bricks is paint pages on 3 of the 4 outside edges, and that way we can let that dry and I can then start painting all the cover designs and we'll go from there. So after a realization I had last week, I think it was, that I own like 2 colors of paint, I bought a brick of acrylics. And I think I'm gonna start with white and ivory together. I want to do like an off-white base to start with, and then I'll add in some little line details to make the pages. So again, this week's craft, very chill, very easy, hopefully. Oh my god, they look so good in this camera. I'm gonna let these dry just a smidgen, and I'm debating adding a second coat just because there's some just like patchiness. I hope you can see this on camera, because these bricks, I should have assumed, are very porous and are absorbing a lot of this paint. So I'm gonna do a second coat, and then once that is dry, we can start adding some detail to the pages, and then we can move on to the covers. So I'm just gonna not make you sit through me painting this again, and I'll be back in a moment. It is a moment later. Everything is dry enough that I want to start adding the detail to the pages. I'm just gonna make some little lines, I guess. I'm gonna use tan, I'm gonna use suede, and I think just some pure ivory to just sort of make these lines, to add some definition to all these little books. My little book pages are dry. They look so good. They really already kind of look like weird books. It is time to officially start on painting the covers, which is the more fun part, the more interesting part. So for all of these bricks, I picked out 4 books from my personal collection that I both loved reading and had covers that I thought I could realistically paint. The cover I started with was The Rosie Project. This brick got a plain light blue base coat. After realizing that all of these books would need a pretty thick coat of paint, I decided that I would do the base color on all of them and then let it dry before adding in all the details. So up next in our lineup was The Hunger Games, a true YA classic. For this one, it was another simple paint job with just a solid black base. I also decided at this point it was probably easier to just put the paint directly onto the bricks instead of using the palette, since I needed so much to get a full coverage coat. The third book is where things get a little bit fancier. Throne of Glass has a light to dark blue gradient on the cover that was actually a lot easier than I expected. Again, paint went directly onto the brick and it was just blended until there was a smooth transition between the light and the dark colors. The fourth book from my shelf is a more recent purchase. Tress of the Emerald Sea is definitely the most complicated design out of all of these. But to start, it was just another gradient of dark green to yellow, which ultimately was tricky because the yellow paint is not very good and it required a couple of passes to get the bottom both opaque and blended. Now if you've been counting, we have one more brick and no more books on the table. That is because, as much as I love to read, so does my husband, and it's also his backyard, so I figured I could give him the chance to at least pick one of the books that I was gonna make into a brick. Gavin, can you come here for a sec? Yeah. If you had to pick one book that will go into our backyard as a book brick, what book do you want it to be?
I don't know, maybe Foundation?
We don't own Foundation as a book. So I Googled and I found an image. So this edition of Foundation that I found had a really cool graphic style that did in fact feel achievable to paint. I know that it has these clear rings in the background, but I decided to make it a gradient instead because I wanted it to match with the other books a little bit better. Time to start painting these up. I once again started with the easiest cover, which was the Rosie project. So I used pure white to do all of the lettering and outline where the bike would go. I tried to match the title placement as best I could, but I was not able to copy the font very well. This is a common problem with most of the books that I ended up painting. After I finished that, I went over parts of the bike with red and black details and finished the book off by adding the author's name, title on the spine, and some red accents on the raised area of the brick. Next up, on the Hunger Games cover, there are these gray line and circle details that I laid out first. I wanted to give them some time to dry since I knew I would have to put lettering over them. I was also very brave and just wung painting the Mockingjay pin. Somehow it did end up turning out and the metallic paint looked so good over the black. I used that same gold to add an arrow on the spine, and once I was sure it was all dry, I added text and tried to make it pretty angular. I did this by stamping my paintbrush down to make all of the letters, which did work pretty well. Again, we're increasing in difficulty. Throne of Glass has the iconic red arches on them that were all gradiented, so I took some dark burgundy, sort of outlined where it would go, and then blended inwards to try to mimic the look. After that, I used light blue to block in the steps and used the same technique to add dimension with dark blue paint. Once I was sure it was dry, I painted in Selena and used metallic gold for all of the lettering, and it just looked so magical. For Tress of the Emerald Sea, I just broke everything down into basic shapes and started to map out all of the details. The sun is just a large circle, the island's a dark blob with little lines sticking out of the edges, and so on. The main struggle I had this one was with Tress herself. People are shaped weird and proportions are hard, but after some finagling, I got something that resembled a human, and I was really happy that I was able to actually get the T-cut to look so detailed. Lastly, this one got metallic bronze lettering, and I was somehow able to make it look like the actual font on the book. The vibes were good here at this moment. Feeling very confident, I started on the Foundation title, which got a white border to start with. Then, like the Rosie project, I did a white base for all of my yellow elements. This was the starburst in the middle and all of the lettering. From there, I filled in all of the white with yellow, and then I painted on the rocket ship. I've never read Foundation, but I assume this has some meaning if you have. I referred back to the image of the cover that I found a lot to try to stylize the ship as best as possible. Finally, when I was 100% sure that everything was super dry, I gave all the bricks a thick clear coat to protect them when they go live outside, and with that, I think it's time for a reveal. This project was exactly what I needed this week, and I'm so happy with the results. Look at these little guys. I think the foundation book might actually be my favorite. The style of the cover that I picked worked really well with the sort of painterly style of painting these bricks. And it looks so good. It really reads like old school sci-fi novel. Some things I learned. These bricks are very porous. If you're gonna do this yourself, and I recommend you do, because it's very cheap and very fun and just like a good time. Probably would recommend like priming it with something just so that you don't have that first layer of paint really absorb, and then also that way light colors aren't having such a hard time painting over the dark brick. But overall, like, I could not recommend this craft more. That was really the only like problem I had with it. And then a couple of craft nights where like you go to a friend's house and you hang out and you do a craft together, and I feel like this would be a great candidate to set up for you and your friends. Again, could not recommend this more. So fun, so relaxed, just like a good creative project to reset your mind and, you know, practice a bit of self-care. And now, my backyard has a healthy dose of whimsy, which is excellent. Let me know in the comments down below which book cover was your favorite from this week and if you would try this project. If you enjoyed, give this video a like and subscribe. Every subscriber really helps. I'm trying to get to 500. Feels like a long way, but with your help, we can make it a little bit shorter. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.